Society Matters.
Hello, I'm your host, Bernie Furshpan of Ordinary Heroes here on HMTV at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County. I have a very special guest today. She's no ordinary hero, she's extraordinary. She's taken an active role in fighting back and pushing back bullying. She actually has her own podcast, which I'm grateful for, and that's Putting the Brakes on Bullying. Samantha Sosnik, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Bernie, for having me.
You have actively been involved in educating people about how to confront bullying, how to stop it, what to do. Tell me how you got involved and why you got involved.
Well, I've always been passionate about always being a upstander. I don't believe in sitting back and watching anybody suffer, anybody that's struggling, whether it's socially, mentally, going through a tough time. I don't believe in letting someone stand alone. And I have always felt this way, but then it wasn't until I had my own experience with one of my daughters that it pushed me to want to speak about it, because I thought it was something that I have often heard about but never experienced in such a incredible capacity.
We teach young people how to be more empathetic. We try to foster empathy. You are the definition of empathy because you care about other people.
Thank you.
You have a daughter with special needs. Tell us a little bit about your story with her, what you had to go through, and what motivated you to get involved.
Well, my daughter Avery, she's 20, almost 21, and she was born with a syndrome called Williams syndrome. We got the diagnosis pretty early on. She was 12 months old. And, you know, it was something that I did not, like any other special needs parent, was prepared for. You know, I had ironically gotten my master's in special ed as a college student and then went on to my master's program. But it's way different when you have your own special needs child. The emotional roller coaster, the taking 5 steps forward and 4 steps back, and getting her the right programs and putting her in the right situation that she can do her best and be her best. And, you know, we all have children, with the ones of us that have children, when they get to a certain age, we hope that we will set them free at 18 or going off to college and be as independent as possible. But that doesn't happen for the special needs community parents. It's a lifelong job. And then you have to worry about it when you're no longer here, who's going to continue to take care of your child the way you want them taken care of. So it's a very big struggle. It's, you know, every day I seem to be putting out some fire, you know, but it's become, that's my path, and I have to accept it, and I have to roll with the punches, and I do the best that I can.
So I find that interesting that you have a formal education in special education. Did that make you more prepared in raising your daughter?
No.
Tell me why.
The only time that it had me well prepared was when I had an IEP meeting, which is her individual education plan that we meet every year, maybe sometimes twice a year, to go over. The technicalities is what I was educated in. And I was educated in how to teach children, but not so much, you know, the experience is the only thing I got when I had my own daughter with special needs. And she lives in a group home now in Florida, near my house in Florida, and she will never live on her own. She'll never drive. She'll never cook for herself. She walks and talks and functions, but those things, those everyday life skills that we take for granted, she will not be able to do. She'll always need some sort of 24-hour care.
What have you learned from her?
a lot of patience. I've learned from her that, we're all different. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. Just because we're not dubbed as special needs does not mean that we are not capable. She has one of her strengths that I've never seen in anybody else is her memory. She remembers things that, anybody that knows her is well aware of this incredible talent that she has. And she, you just realize, when I go to the group home to visit with her and I see the other residents that live there, they're just very natural. They're natural. They don't want for much except for company and to be included, and they're excited when they're going to the movies and to a show. All this other hoopla that we have going on, all these other, things that people strive to be, they don't care about those things. It's not something that's important to them. They're happy to just be amongst people and have a good day.
They live in the moment.
And they live in the moment, exactly.
We should learn a lot from them.
We should.
Honestly, they have a lot of values for all
They
of
have
us.
a lot of values, and they are kind to each other, and I'm telling you.
Isn't that what we're trying to promulgate, is to be kind, to live in the moment, and just to appreciate the fact that you're alive.
And appreciate,
and be grateful
exactly.
for the relationships that you do have.
Correct. And to know that, you don't need that much to be happy.
Right.
You don't need that much to be happy as far as, all these people that strive to be better than everybody else or have more than everybody else. We don't need that we don't need that. That only puts more pressure on everybody.
There's kind of a parallelism with my father's story. I'll tell
Yes.
you why. He lived in a shtetl. They were all poor. They had nothing, and they were happy. In a way, it's very similar. You have a second daughter.
Second daughter.
Okay. And so what kind of relationship does she have with your first daughter?
She's a wonderful girl. She's 5 years younger than Avery. Her name is Tatum, and she from a very early age, she had this innate quality of wanting to mother her. There have been many stories where she wanted to help her in the bathroom, she wanted to help her in the shower, and she was like 3 years old and 4 years old, and she taught her to do this. She taught her to do she tried to teach her push-ups. I'm just thinking of all these little things that are popping into my head. She would want to help her, with the food and get it ready. She was very motherly from the very beginning. And I'll never forget, she was about 5 and Avery was about 10. And I heard fighting one night upstairs. And I went upstairs to see what was going on. I heard doors slam, and I went into Tatum. I said, and she was crying. I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "I was trying to help Avery and she's not being nice to me." She goes, "I think I need more help understanding her special needs." And I was blown away because she was 5 years old. And she just had this desire to learn more so that she can help her instead of deserting her.
Wow, you're raising your daughters right. That's all I can say.
Thank
very
you.
empathetic, especially Tatum.
Yes.
Very caring about her sister. And what's her story? I mean, what's her future going to be like? Now, your second daughter, what plans
Tatum.
does she have? Yes.
Oh, well, she's loving being back in New York in high school. She was struggling a little bit in Florida, and she wasn't finding her niche there, and she missed her friends that she had back where we live in Merrick. And we spent 5 years trying to make it work down there, and then we decided it was time for her to come back. So we bought another house on Long Island, and we gave her the opportunity to flourish and be herself and be back with her friends. And I have to say, it was seamless and welcoming, and my friends were welcoming, and her friends were welcoming, and it was meant to be. It was beshared.
And so you got involved with this whole bullying campaign. Tell us about how did you initiate this program? And obviously there was some experiences that you had that compelled you to do something about it. Tell us about this.
Well, my daughter Tatum, my younger daughter, like I said, we had moved to Florida about 6 years ago, and she just wasn't finding the same things she had in New York. And she first went to an elementary school, and then we wanted her to move on to a Jewish day school, so she could get more of her Jewish education, her bat mitzvah. And it turned out the school, although very good and very good with what they provided for her for Judaism, it was too small for her. She's a very social girl. She's very active in plans and adventure, and she just wasn't finding enough of that, enough people. She loves people. She's great with her contemporaries. She's great with the younger children, and she's very good with the older people. She can spend hours with a 95-year-old. She visits with Holocaust survivors, both of us do. And she just has this wonderful, she's like an old soul. She has this wonderful rapport with even the people that are much older than her. So we were in Florida, and we decided to switch her out of the Jewish day school and go on to another school that we felt was a better fit for her. And it turns out she knew a girl there that she spent her summers with since she was 8 years old, and very good friends. And from the moment she entered the school, well, let me backtrack. I remember explaining to the mother that she was having a trouble, and we're thinking about moving into this school because we've heard good things about it. And I remember thinking to myself that her body language spoke volumes about Tatum entering this school. But I didn't think much of it. I, pushed it aside. And when she started that school, 2 weeks after she ended her camp, there was not only not a warm welcome, but there was total ignorance, totally ignoring, no inclusion, not welcoming, no come sit with me, come meet my friends. She was all alone again. And I couldn't understand what was going on. It turns out that this girl was obviously very insecure. So you don't do that. You don't not welcome someone that's new. I've been telling Tatum from day one, if there's someone new to school, the first thing you do is ask them to come sit with you, ask them to come talk to you, introduce them to your friends. It's very uncomfortable to be new somewhere, and it's very daunting. You want to make someone feel comfortable. So she did not get that. Not only did she not get that, she got outright messages that the girl was speaking to her own friends that they are not going to be friends with her. She would sit at the lunch table. No one would talk to her.
And what was the reason for that?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Lack of good parenting, lack of empathy, lack of, maybe Tatum is going to supersede me. Maybe I can't handle that. Maybe I need to.
They felt threatened, maybe?
I definitely think so. I definitely feel like they felt threatened. And, there was a girl there that Tatum liked that she had met through this other girl. It was her friend, and the mothers were very close also. And she was very nice to Tatum, and she showed her somewhere to go. She needed to change something. She showed her where to go, and she was very grateful for that. And she wanted to get together with her and, get her lunch by where we live and spend the day with her. And this other girl that Tatum's been friends with since she's 8 years old made that not happen. And she made sure that she was included in the plans, and then they ghosted her. And when I spoke to the mother about this, she threw her friend under the bus and said it was all that girl's fault. Meanwhile, we know that it was Tatum's friend's fault for doing that. So fast forward, Tatum eventually became very disenchanted. She did not want to sit. She's confident enough to know that she did not deserve this treatment. So she decided, with the help of Sean and I, to move her table and go meet some other people. I don't need to be ignored. I don't need to be shunned. I don't need to be
and for
disregarded.
no apparent reason.
What's that?
And for no apparent reason.
No reason, except you just, I guess you couldn't handle her. I guess, that was not. So she did that. And then we received a call from the girl wondering what happened to her. Like, why did she move? And it's a very long story, but Tatum has too much self-respect to think that she really cared about her. She was just worried about herself and what might not now happen going forward with the other group of friends that they all have at camp. So she didn't want to talk to her on the phone. She wanted to talk to her in person. I always taught her texting this day and age with the phones and
Confront the situation with the
confront
person.
the situation, talk
the
to her in
person
person.
directly.
Right. So she approached her at school, wanted to speak to her, and said, "What do you want to speak to me about?" And she refused to talk to her. But you're calling me. You know, she's calling her.
Right.
So, and texting her. And so that didn't work out well. The mature one didn't get anywhere in the situation. And then the parents got involved. And my conversation, first the father called Sean. Don't ask me why, that's strange, but okay. And then we had a conversation with him, because I happened to be there. And then I guess he didn't do a good enough job of convincing us. So then the mother and I spoke, and it did not go well because it was filled and riddled with lies and excuses and self-serving antics. And then, since it didn't go well, I guess she felt then she had to go on this campaign to ruin my daughter's name.
That's awful.
Yeah. And then, you know, unfortunately, I didn't encounter, like, I thought it would be an isolated situation between two people, but it turned out that this mother went on a campaign to ruin my daughter's reputation with the other mothers that we know from the camp and the other children. And it was a year filled with harassing texts, phone calls, taking us out of group chats that we normally had all these years, you know, for the summer, not including us in anything, in social events. We even had a bat mitzvah that we went to of one of the girls. They were awful to her there, awful, abusive, throwing food at her. And the mother of that girl, who I also was friendly with, wanted nothing to do with it.
Very complicit.
I even had her over to my house to introduce her to some of my other friends. And that mother that I just said hosted the bat mitzvah. And I even had her over to introduce her to my friends that I thought she would get along with. They have a lot in common, politics. And so I had introduced her, and I had said to her, you know, do you know what's going on? This is like horrible. Like, Tatum's been removed from the group chat. No one's talking to her. She's like, yeah, I've heard something. She goes, but, you know, I'm not going to put myself at risk. And that was the end of that. And nobody was concerned. Nobody was interested. But part of me sometimes wants to get a box of thank you cards and write each of one of them a thank you card, because what happened in the end, after a year of abuse, she still picked herself up, Tatum. She went back to her summer place, even though she did not know what she was entering into. And she persevered, and she came out a champion. And the goal of the first mother, with all of her crazy antics, did not work. She didn't get to bully her hope was that Tatum would not return to camp. But she's just as entitled to go to this camp as she is, because as anybody else is, because that's her place. We've been doing it for 8 years, 7 years at the time. So it was an amazing learning, even as stressful and painful and aggravating as it was. We never wavered. We always stood our ground, and we realized that we created more of a child, a young lady that has suffered from this, but didn't let it break her down.
You know, adversities tend to strengthen people, right?
Yes.
If it doesn't kill you,
It's
it'll make you stronger.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
If we backtrack just a little bit,
Yes.
you mentioned from the beginning of that story that the mother gave you hints, in a way. Her body language
Oh, yes.
spoke 1,000 words.
Yes.
Now, if you heeded those hints, maybe things would have been different, but you had no idea.
Yeah, I've looked back
But
on
what,
that.
what
yeah.
kind of hints were you getting from
I just
her?
was getting, listen, I had one experience. I had an experience with her prior to that where she herself, we were all coming from out of town to a bat mitzvah up north, and she also didn't contact me. I contacted her, but she never told me of any plans, and a bunch of them got together. It was like, kind of like foreshadowing, if that's the right word. I think it's
Yes.
foreshadowing. And the same thing happened then, with me as adult women, because I see this with adult women as well. The interesting thing about her is that she, when we were friendly, would speak to me about some of the other women. And she, would make comments about, one of the women has a younger child that's the same age as her younger child. And she found it so annoying that they were latching on to the younger child so that she had someone to go to this camp with. She'd call me and talk poorly about other people. And I don't do that. I don't enjoy that. I don't like that, because everybody has a reason for maybe some insecurity or some apprehension, and you want to help somebody. This one was completely showing signs. I didn't realize it as much at the time, but I did find it interesting that she called to complain about some of the other women.
She's got her own insecurities.
Absolutely.
People who feel confident and secure really speak highly of others. They don't
Correct.
put them down. I guess they need company. What do they say? Misery loves company.
Misery loves company, and they needed an army to you don't need to gather an army to go against somebody. I have a very big problem with that, especially with our young generation, because thankfully Tatum has a strong support system. She has a great foundation at home. She knows who she is. However, there's a lot of children that may not have that, and they live with this alone. And my heart breaks to think that someone in this same position could have possibly harmed themselves or worse.
There you go. So some children suffer quietly.
Yes.
But they're holding it in. They're not speaking to anybody about it. They're not getting help that they need. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of anti-bullying campaigns as well, but some don't get involved. Maybe because they're afraid. At least your daughter had some confidence, and she felt good about herself, and that made a difference.
Yes.
But that had a lot to do with how you're raising her.
Correct. I believe so.
Not everybody is raised that way, but we have empathy for all of them.
Yes.
And so what is your program all about? And at least what is your podcast about, and how do you think that you can help people?
Well, my podcast is about, opening up the window to people speaking about their experiences. And I do find a little bit of a struggle finding people that want to get on and speak about this, because it's almost like once you talk about it and you expose yourself, sometimes it bites you in the behind about it. It's not something, some people don't want to do that because it might make it worse. And I always think, I've always used this reference, that a bully is a weak individual. And it reminds me of The Wizard of Oz, when The Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, this big, tough, boisterous voice.
It's just a facade.
And then you pull the curtain away, and there's this person, he was shaking. He was like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, he didn't have any guts once the curtain was pulled away. And that's what you have to do. You have to stand up. You have to trudge through. And you just have to hopefully find people that will back you up. I mean, like I said in the beginning, we came back to Merrick where we lived before, and it was like she never left. My friends were welcoming. One of my friends, I'll never forget, said to me, just bring her home.
That curtain that you mentioned is really the digital wall between, young people and their victims, right?
Yes.
They feel, secure and confident to harass others behind that digital wall.
Yes.
And so when you pull it away, really inside, to some degree, I feel bad for them, because they may have had their own experiences of being harassed or ridiculed or humiliated or insulted or treated poorly by their own parents. And so this is how, they project, right, to others, and they feel safe doing it behind a screen.
Yes, well, that's a very, very, very big problem with our children these days.
Right. What can people take away from this? And any final thoughts for our listeners?
I think that as hard as it is to come forward and discuss this, or find someone that you trust to discuss this, it might be very painful in the beginning, but the rewards outweigh the pain.
Yes.
Because, if you come across a girl named Tatum and you want to speak to her about something like this, she was already like this before her experience, but she's even better at it now, if it's even possible. She knows not everybody's going to be best friends, but everybody has a soul and everybody has a heart, and not everybody is going to look like you and speak like you and do things that you do, but they're human beings and they need to be treated as such.
Samantha Sosnik, you are an extraordinary hero. Thank
you.
you so much for joining me today on Ordinary Heroes here on HMTV. I'm your host, Bernie Furshpan. Until next time.